for the academic year 2022. To read the statement for us is the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande, who is accompanied by the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Mr. Buti Manamela, and the Director General of the Department of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nkosinathi Sishi. Welcome, TG. This is your first media briefing that you are attending with us since your appointment. Thank you very much for your presence and appointment. Thank you. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to welcome the leadership of the NSFAS led by the chairperson, Ubabu Kosa, and the CEO is here. The leadership of Higher Health led by Dr. Alwalia, and the DDGs of various programs of the department. You are also welcomed, colleagues from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Minister, I will take this opportunity to request you to come and address us. I must indicate that today, ladies and gentlemen, we are addressed by the youthful Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation. You'll see from his attire, and you can deduce the direction that this statement will go, that it is in favor of who. Thank you very much. Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ishmael, who is the program director for this press briefing, which is a very important press briefing for us at the beginning of each academic year. Let me start by greeting our Deputy Minister, Mr. Buti Manamela, our relatively brand new Director General of the Department of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nkosinathi Sishi, all the Deputy Director Generals present here, Professor Ramnik Alwalia of Higher Health, the Chairperson of the Board of NSFAS, Mr. Ernest Kosa. He complains the students call him Ernest FAS. And the CEO of NSFAS, Mr. Andy Lenongoko, the chairpersons and CEO of all our entities, chancellors, vice chancellors, TVET and community education and training principals, trade unions in our sector, student formations, members of the media, and fellow South Africans. We welcome you all to our first media briefing of the year 2022. I call this briefing to share with the public our readiness for the opening of the 2022 post-school education and training academic year. I'm wearing my blazer because also we urge all our partners to be with us, especially also our SRC leaders who normally wear like this very nicely in all our universities and colleges. We need your cooperation as we start the academic year. First and foremost, let me congratulate the matric class of 2021, National Senior Certificate, who got an overall pass rate standing at 76.4%, an improvement of 0.2% from the pass rate achieved by the class of 2020. Correctly, I should be saying it's an improvement of 0.2 percentage points, not 0.2%. from the pass rate achieved by the class of 2020. This represents a record of 537,687 candidates who passed the 2021 National Senior Certificate examinations. All of these, this represents a record of, as I've said the number, all of these are potential candidates to be absorbed into our post-school education and training sector. I also wish to congratulate all the learners who passed their November 2021 National Certificate Vocational Levels 2 to 4 exams, which are administered by my Department of Higher Education and Training. I also wish to take this opportunity to urge all those who have not made it, not to despair, but to explore the range of opportunities for training, learnerships, and internships in the skills development section of our post-school education and training sector, over and above, of course, the second chance matric opportunities that are there. Our skills development system will be offering, for instance, about 100,000 opportunities through our SETAs, Sector Education and Training Authorities, including but not limited to learnerships, which provide both theory and practical workplace training, where learners are paid a learnership allowance regulated in terms of the National Minimum Wage Act, including apprenticeship for artisanal trades. Additional opportunities in this case will also be announced in the next few weeks as we finalize our work in this regard in terms of opportunities for skills development. Ladies and gentlemen, the last 2 years have been extremely tough for the post-school education and training sector. However, I'm proud that our system has remained resilient despite the numerous challenges of funding constraints, COVID-19 restrictions, and the new forms of teaching and learning we've had to adopt. For our university sector, the number of students who deregistered remains low, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. For undergraduate students, the percentage of dropouts was 2%, and for postgraduate, it's at 3%. As a sector, we've ensured that we support our students who needed electronic devices such as laptops. The average, by the way, across the system, the university system, is that 73% of students who require laptops have been supported to obtain one, with NSFAS students at an average of 87%. I want to repeat this, that the average across the system is 73% of students who require laptops have been supported to obtain one, with NSFAS students at an average of 87%. I'm repeating this because there was a lot of disinformation about this matter, and that in fact we have done fairly well as a department in terms of provision of gadgets to support learning and teaching in our institutions. It is our hope that students will prioritize the use of their allowances to prioritize essential equipment to support their learning at university. Data provision required for online access for teaching and learning and assessments also remained high across the system. The average across the system for all university graduate students is 86%. It is for this reason that we will be engaging the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, Minister Nchabeni, on dedicated spectrum for post-school education and training, so that we are able to effectively access, sustain, and use digital technologies in support of education and training. It's a very important matter, this, that Now that as a country and the world is moving and going digital, it's important that we believe spectrum must be dedicated, must be reserved in a dedicated way for post-school education and training. And this is what we are going to be engaging the minister about. For the most part, students who are on campus and in residences are able to access university Wi-Fi services. Our universities, TVET colleges, and community education and training colleges and skills centers have also generally reported high levels of student participation in teaching and learning, assessment and testing in 2021, as greater numbers of students were able to access campuses and skills centers. This gives us hope that in 2020, we should expect decreased numbers of students not consistently engaged in learning and teaching and training, as our post-school education and training institutions have now devised strategies to deal with the difficulties presented by COVID-19 and the lockdowns. I would like to thank the leadership of our PSET system, comprising of our universities, TVETs, community education and training colleges and skills centers, the academic and support staff, labor unions, and the students for their resilience and commitment to ensure that we successfully completed the 2021 academic year. Also like to thank our Deputy Minister for having led the consultation processes involving all our stakeholders to manage these past 2 years that have been very difficult. We have worked well together in facing the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. And indeed, I wish you all the strength for the 2022 academic year. Ladies and gentlemen, on vaccination, COVID-19 remains a challenge as we start the 2022 academic year. The post-school education and training system has been immensely creative and adaptive in the management of our response to the pandemic through our Save Lives, Save the Academic Year, as well as innovations, as well as interventions by and through the Department of Science and Innovation. A special cabinet meeting held yesterday, 31st January, approved changes to the adjusted Alert Level 1 COVID-19 regulations. This follows meetings of the National Coronavirus Command Council, the President's Coordinating Council, which received updates on the management of COVID-19 in South Africa. The information gathered through the system used by the Department of Health has reported that South Africa has exited the fourth wave nationally. Now, this development means that 2022 is promising to be an academic year less disrupted by lockdown periods and restricted access to classes. Of course, if no new waves of variants surge again. And by the way, we mustn't also drop the ball. We must continue to maintain the health protocols, including physical distancing, including cleaning our hands, using sanitizers, and putting our masks in both mouth and nose, amongst others. To the extent that COVID-19 restrictions are eased, more and more contact learning and teaching is possible. And as levels of vaccination increase, more students will have access to on-campus services. In line with the approach of the National Coronavirus Command Council, the NCCC as we call it, and Cabinet, I would like to encourage everyone in our higher education and training community to get vaccinated. Vaccination is safe and it saves lives. So we call upon everyone, all our stakeholders, to join us in the campaign to get everyone vaccinated. As we move towards full contact learning and teaching and on-campus activities, and a full return to residencies, it is necessary to ensure that staff and students have access to safe campus environments, which is greatly assisted by a high level of the population being vaccinated. Ayikho yonke lento eshiwoyo ngomgomo lo esiwenzayo ukuthi uneyinkinga wenza zonke lezi zinto. Sifuna ukusho lokuthini ukuthi ososayensi bayasitshela ukuthi zonke lezi zinto okuthiwa abantu abangagomi ngoba abanye angazi bazokwenzekelwa yini, iy'nganekwane nje esiyixoxelwayo. Isayensi ngingakusho lokhu ngoba angimile lana njengongqongqoshe nje wezemfundo ephakeme nokuqeqeshwa, ngimla futhi njengongqongqoshe wezesayensi nobuchwepheshe, ukuthi imigomo le ikhethiwe, iyaziwa, yahlolwa. Yingakho sithi kuwo wonke umuntu masihambeni siyogoma ukuze siphephise iy'mpilo zethu. Currently, our agency, Higher Health, our implementing agency that is guiding institutions on the management of the pandemic, is consulting scientific experts in drawing up guidelines that institutions can follow in determining various matters around vaccination. Whilst we are awaiting the finalization of these guidelines in relation to vaccine mandates and in the management of the academic year, which I intend to prioritize urgently, let's all work together to defeat COVID-19, and I urge all institutions to ensure that the policies and procedures they put in place have been widely consulted upon. However, we must point out that the Deputy President is leading a process of consultations on the issue of vaccine mandates. That's our Deputy President, Mr. Didi Mabuza, who is leading this effort. However, it is important that in navigating this situation of vaccine mandates, we must know that in terms of our own constitution, there is no right that is absolute. Those who assert their right not to vaccinate must also know that those who choose to vaccinate also have their rights to be protected against possible infection. Alikho nje ilungelo elihambela lodwa. Nasemgaqweni kunespeed esibekiwe 100. Ngeke usho ukuthi hayi mina ngizoshayela ngo100. Kwenzela ukuthi ungabi ingozi kuwena futhi ungabi ingozi nakwabanye abantu. So it's very important that we are guided also by our constitution in the choice we make in exercising our rights. So this should be the framework within which our institutions are able to engage. In addition, the guidelines that I will release will take into account the latest national regulations and how they will impact on our post-school education and training institutions. Let me talk about university enrollments for 2022. The overall total enrollments within the public university sector have been projected to be 1,110,361 for this 2022 academic year. First-time entering enrollments are projected at 208,299 nationally, with 69,069 of these being first-time entering enrollments dedicated to scarce skills areas. That's not the totality of all first-time entrants. As I've said, first-time entrants is 208,000, but within this there is 69,069, which are first-time entering enrollments dedicated to what we call scarce skills areas. They have been projected as follows: that we will be enrolling 17,085 in engineering, that's first-time entrants, 17,584 in life and physical sciences, 985 in animal sciences, 209 in veterinary sciences, 10,418 in human health, and 22,788 in teacher education. It should be noted that a considerable portion of the spaces within scarce skills areas require a national senior certificate mathematics mark of at least 60%. We, however, do have a concern about the need for the improvement in the numbers of students acquiring this minimum requirement. As we speak now, they are less than the required numbers. That now talks to subjects like physical science and mathematics that we still do not have them in the numbers that we require coming out of our schooling system. By the way, we should also just dismiss this. I don't know, sometimes, DM, whether people really decide not to listen deliberately. There is no one who goes to university having had a 30% pass mark. But people keep on repeating this thing ad nauseum. There is no such. You can't enter university at 30%. But we need to explain this because it is a challenge. Every education system has exit points. Exit points must be calculated both on the higher end and on the lower end. When you say you have passed by 30%, it means there are certain minimum capacities and understanding that you have such that you can be able to access particular forms of occupations or of training. That's why we have grades in our education system. To then say, because we have got 30% grade, therefore that's the pass grade, it's just not true. If I wasn't on radio and television, I would be using an appropriate Dambuza word to describe that is not true. But I'm not going to use that. So it's false narrative that is consistently being repeated. This is done not only in South Africa, throughout the whole world, including those people who think that some countries are much better. Even in those countries, they have got different gradations and categorization of performance. That's education. So it's important that we explain this thing so that once and for all, we actually kill it. Because it's like people go, oh, in South Africa, 30% is a pass to go anywhere. It's wrong. It's not true. People must just familiarize themselves with the reality here. Now, let's come back to real issues, not those ones. To further enable access to all our institutions, we have opened what we call our Central Applications Clearinghouse, which we call CATCH, on the 24th of January 2022, following the release of the National Senior Certificate results. We have provided here the details for CATCH, but let me try, Thandi, and explain CATCH simply. CATCH is a facility which is aimed at those students who might not, for instance, have been accepted in a subject, in a particular course, in a particular institution. So you use CATCH to say, here am I, I'm available, I want to do this course. Then CATCH will direct you to other institutions that may be offering that course so that you possibly have an opportunity to do the course of your first choice. That's primarily what CATCH does. CATCH also allows students who have done well, but for one reason or the other, and if I'm not mistaken, had not applied, to be able to say, here I am, I've done well, I need to do this, and CATCH then will be able to assist you. We have got many ways of accessing CATCH. Amongst others, we do need to say this, you can send a WhatsApp message, a hello message to 078 776 8660. The number again, 078 776 8660. We also have got an online self-service at www.catch.ac.za. We also provide other channels, Facebook and Twitter as well. Usually the quickest way to access this is to simply say, even if you're on Facebook or whatever, hashtag catch, CACH, and then you are able to access. It's an important function through which we assist students to be able to access the courses they want. Catch is open and it will close on the 30th of March 2022. And its services are available from Mondays to Friday between 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturday between 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. I would also like to acknowledge that we are aware that the Catch website was down for a period of time last week. By the way, we also need to remind people that when they raise issues on Facebook or Twitter, we do pick those things up, even on the DM's Facebook and Twitter, and my Facebook and Twitter. We do pick things up. The fact that we don't respond directly to you, it does not mean that we haven't picked those up. Otherwise, we can't respond to the hundreds of thousands of people who reach out to us, because there are institutions that deal with these things, and we normally pass them on to the people who deal with this. So please don't be angry against me. Minister, I sent you a Facebook message. You did not respond to me. We are not a serious minister. You don't take your work seriously. That is an unfair attack and an unfair criticism, because we do act DM on those.
Sliding into our DMs.
Right, on TVET colleges, the department has embarked on a process to review curricula of programs offered in our TVET colleges in order to ensure that their relevance, currency, and alignments to needs of industry and society. 22 more subjects have been revised, with the N4 Business and Services Studies subjects being implemented in the first semester of 2022 and the N5 in the second semester. The N4 Engineering Studies revised subjects will be implemented in the first trimester of 2022 and N5 in the second trimester. Our TVET colleges, our curricula are continuously updated on the revised subjects and how to access relevant curriculum documents through circulars. I will elaborate further on this during the 2022 department budget vote statement. The DM and I and the rest of our department, including our DG, we are championing the transformation and upgrading of our TVET colleges. It's not correct that we pay more attention to universities than TVET colleges. That is absolutely incorrect. The fact of the matter is that what we have in the country at the moment is what we regard as an anomalous situation, that we have got more university students than TVET college students. We should be having more TVET college students than university students. So what makes the university system to seem dominant is because of its numbers. But to then say this government doesn't care about TVET colleges is simply untrue. What we have done, we know it's not enough, but it's already a lot. We introduced NSFAS into TVET colleges. It was not there before 2009. We introduced it. We have also expanded the numbers in TVET colleges. That they have been stagnant is not because we do not care, but the budget of the country has not given us more money. We want to expand that. We have built beautiful TVET college campuses in deepest of rural areas because we do believe that we have to expand TVET college education. Now, on enrollment then, is that our planned 2022 headcount students enrollment into the ministerial approved programs is 508,000, which unfortunately is lower than the 2021-22 headcount enrollments funded by the state, precisely because of budgetary pressures. not because of anything. Rather, let's work together to say, let government do all it can to prioritize the TVET college sector. Therefore, the 2022 enrollment planning for the TVET colleges will only be funded by the state at 14.385 billion rands, with a correlating budget deficit of 165 million, or 1.15% funding deficit. When it relates to the enrollments themselves, we have implemented a standard operating procedure with 7 sub-processes in all of our 50 colleges. We continue to monitor this process through our regional and national office oversight teams. We have been utilizing both online and manual systems to process students' applications and registrations since the 17th of January to date for both new and returning students. And we want to urge our students, those who are able to access registration online, please do so, because we are trying to eliminate stampedes and flocking into institutions physically, even worse in this day and age when we've got COVID-19. Those who can access, let's access things online, as many colleges are rightly doing, which we are encouraging them to do. Now, I want to just briefly share with you the Business Studies and NCV 2021 exam results. A total of 135,790 candidates wrote for the November 2021 NCV exams. The number of candidates that participated in the November 2021 exams has declined slightly by 1.9% compared to the number of candidates that wrote the November 2020 examinations. As was the case in 2020, more females at 71.1% participated in the November 2021 NCV examination cycles as compared to 28.9% male candidates. The 19 to 24 age group made up 66.5% compared to 58.8% in November 2020. In as far as the student percentage distribution per province in 2021, this is for your information. We are not taking any names or numbers of students to the newspapers for this. KwaZulu-Natal at the highest, here is this language, Manzin. It's Malusi language. Highest road percentage. Doesn't sound like the right English. Highest road percentage. But that's Umalusi language, which means those who have written percentage. KZN was leading 20.6%, followed by Gauteng at 19.3%, Limpopo 18.1%, Eastern Cape 12.9%, and the lowest percentage of those who wrote, it said, was recorded in Northwest at 5.1% and Northern Cape at 1%. We had a total of 898,907 subject entries enrolled for the November 2021 NCV examinations. I want to say that there is a serious point of concern to me that I had to request my Department of Higher Education and Training to provide detailed analysis of factors that might have contributed to the decline that we have noted above, and over and above, if there are any challenges imposed by COVID-19 and the legacy issues that affect TVET colleges. We know that the numbers have become less, partly because of COVID-19. But we want to see if over and above COVID-19, were there any reasons? I would also like to appeal to all our prospective students who are still seeking spaces within our TVET colleges for entry-level programs to contact their colleges of choice for available enrollment spaces for the academic year 2022. On community education and training, the calendar of our community education and training institutions is aligned to that of the basic education department because the majority of our centers operate in the schools. Inland community education and training colleges have commenced their academic program from the 12th of January, and coastal colleges commenced on the 19th of January. On fees now and other financial matters, There's been some public interest in the fee increases within the university sector. I would like to point out that fee increases are agreed upon in the sector as part of a social compact that has been in place since 2016. Since 2016, we've worked together with the sector on inflation-linked increases to ensure that fee increases remain affordable. In this regard, for the 2022 academic year, a CPI increase to a maximum of 4.23% for tuition fees and CPI plus 2 to a maximum of 6.23% on accommodation fees has been proposed. This is important, by the way, to say, because before there was no control or limitations on the increase of fees by institutions. They were doing as they wish. Now we have a system to say you can increase no more than the inflation rate. We recognize that the long-term stability and sustainability of the sector relies in a significant measure on tuition and residence fee income to universities, and we are working on a fee regulatory policy framework for them. I must indicate that last year, we've made significant progress on this matter. It should also be noted that the cost of providing university education continue to increase, and it is therefore not sustainable to consider lower than inflation fee increases. Fee increases, by the way, we need to explain to the country, are necessitated by obvious factors that every year we have to increase workers' wages and staff salaries. That's what contributes, amongst other things, to fee increases. Increase in electricity and water tariffs, rise in food prices, rise in books and learning materials in their prices, and generally the rise in inflation. There are increases everywhere, so our institutions must also cater for this if they are to be sustainable. At the same time, we are concerned that student debt has grown in the university sector. The unaudited data showed that an estimated 6.1 billion was owed by students at the start of the 2021 academic year. Audited accumulated gross student debt as at 31st of December 2020 is 16.5 million rands. This amount is inclusive of students who have exited universities with debt. But it's important that we analyze this student debt in some detail. A survey conducted by the department in 2021 showed that an estimated 56.2% of students with debt, they owe less than 10,000 rand. 32.9 owe between 10,000 and 50,000 rand, and only 10.9% owe more than 50,000 rand. This survey also showed that NSFAS students owe 5.3 billion rands. These are mainly students, NSFAS students, Thandi, who were admitted prior to 2018. Because those who have been admitted after 2018, everything gets paid, so they don't owe, which is an important advance. It should be noted that government has contributed 1.7 billion rand to NSFAS as a result of the due diligence exercise that was undertaken in 2018 towards the historic debt of registered qualifying NSFAS students. This was in the main targeting eligible students who were subject to the 122,000 family income threshold and NSFAS funding cap. So we have relieved NSFAS students who registered. We've given some relief who registered before 2018 in student debt by government paying 1.7 billion rands. And cheers to that. This work between NSFAS and institutions is currently underway. In addressing matters of student financial aid and student debt, the department is hard at work developing recommendations for a comprehensive student financial aid model for the future. This model will incorporate the existing funding available from the state and exploring alternative funding sources. While we are concerned about the long-term sustainability of the fully subsidized funding for students from poor and working class backgrounds, we are also concerned about students considered to be in the missing middle and the need for more postgraduate funding opportunities. In 2021, I appointed a ministerial task team to support the development of a new student financial aid policy, and I'm looking forward to receiving the report from the ministerial task team in the first half of 2022. I, however, must indicate that the ministerial task team has already started engaging the banking community and the financial sector, and progress has been made in this regard. I must indicate that for the current term, we are in discussions with the Banking Association of South Africa on work that needs to be done to develop a possible affordable loan scheme for students falling outside the NSFAS funding regime. We are working very hard at that, and we want to conclude that work before the end of the first half of this year. For missing middle students, there are also other funding opportunities available both at institutional level and other sources. We urge that those who are looking for financial support to contact their financial aid officers at their respective institution. I must also say that we have also identified the support from the SETAs in terms of bursaries, and we are directing the SETAs that with their bursaries, they must prioritize funding the missing middle. On NSFAS funding, which I'm sure many people have been waiting for. Students from poor and working class backgrounds had from 2nd November 2021 to the 21st January 2022 to apply for NSFAS bursaries to further their studies at public technical and vocational education and training colleges or universities. This allowed applicants who received their National Senior Certificate results the opportunity to apply. NSFAS initiated a system improvement process to improve the turnaround time and facilitate speedy provisional funding decisions for students who are using third-party sources such as Home Affairs, Department of Basic Education, SASSA, and the Revenue Services data. With this initiative, all first-time entering students that were successfully verified as SASSA beneficiaries received immediate confirmation of funding upon submitting a complete application to NSFAS. Let me explain this. All SASSA beneficiaries who receive grants, the child grant in the main, who have applied to NSFAS, they have already gotten a reply to say they do qualify for NSFAS. But we must always make this distinction. Qualifying for NSFAS on itself is not enough to get that money. You only get that money if you have also been admitted at a university or a college. It's not a grant, NSFAS, that you get given this money because you qualify, irrespective of whether you have been taken in an institution. Sometimes we get a lot of people on Facebook and Twitter saying, where is my money? Because NSFAS said I qualify. If we are sitting at home, we have not been accepted anyway, you can't get NSFAS money because that money is meant for you to study. It's not a grant. I think it's important that we explain this so that everybody understands. Now, NSFAS has received 906,429 applications during the 2022 application period, of which 85% of these applicants have not studied at a public university or college before. In comparison to the number of applications received over the last 3 years, we have observed a sharp increase in the demand for NSFAS bursaries for this year. I'm happy to report that we will be able to fund all qualifying students on the Department of Higher Education and Training bursary scheme as administered by NSFAS who have been admitted for funding programs at public TVET colleges and universities in 2022. Further details will be provided by NSFAS, including the appeals process for those who have not been successful. Let me repeat. I'm happy to report that we'll be able to fund all qualifying students on the DHET bursary scheme as administered by NSFAS for students who have been admitted for funded programs at public TVET colleges and the universities in 2022. It means both new entrants as well as those who are continuing. I will soon be releasing the revised NSFAS funding eligibility and terms and conditions for 2022 within the next few days. However, of major concern to me and the department and NSFAS are students who continue to defraud the system by failing to disclose improvements in household income, or the student has obtained a new funder or knowingly submits false information. Basebaningi kakhulu abantu abathatha amashansi bethola uNSFAS noma isimo sabo sesishintshile. According to the analysis performed to a cohort of 2021 students, NSFAS has established that 38,744 continuing students in TVET colleges and universities continue to be funded, even though they have realized substantial improvement in household income over the funded period. Just to show that we are not thumb-sucking this, from this analysis, 32,654 students benefiting from NSFAS have a household income that exceeds 400,000 rand. Yet the limit for NSFAS students is family income of 350,000. Our analysis further shows that 7,081 of these students have a household income that exceeds 1 million rand, and 632 students are benefiting from NSFAS, yet they have a household income that exceeds 2 million rands per annum. These students will be defunded. However, I would like to say to NSFAS chairperson and the CEO in front of me here, it's not enough just to defund. You must take and lodge criminal charges of fraud in such instances. Though, of course, the affected students may appeal and say, well, it's not true that my family is earning this money. But those that have been found to be defrauding the scheme, we must take criminal action. It can't be that we actually tolerate these things, because if we tolerate them, we are breeding a future generation of thieves and corrupt people. It's very important that we fight corruption wherever it occurs. NSFAS is in the large stages of implementing a new disbursement of allowances tool that will enable the organization to accept registration data and process students' allowances speedily and accurately. The first payments for the 2022 academic year will be processed via this new system. Other initiatives that the NSFAS board has approved include direct distribution of allowances to students and central platform for the management of student accommodation. These are envisaged to be implemented in a pilot form in the first half of 2022, but we would really like to plead with the students. These allowances are for education. They are not for anything else other than for education. You misspend these allowances at your own peril. So please use these allowances for what they are meant for. NSFAS has also undertaken a process called Closeout Project to deal with historic debt, as well as the historic challenges of outstanding data reconciliation between NSFAS and our institutions. The closeout project emanated from the data challenges that were brought about by the 2017 NSFAS implementation of the student-centered model for our 26 universities and 50 TVET colleges. The closeout project, therefore, aims to complete all the work relating to funding of students and disbursement of allowances for the academic year 2017 to 2020. While there's been active participation from some universities and TVET colleges in this process, it is of concern that there are institutions which did not provide the required feedback to NSFAS in order to finalize the reconciliation exercise. To date, NSFAS is ready to provide closeout and historic debt status reports to universities that have submitted their files for the in-scope years. I've noted that there are 16 universities that have fully submitted their files, with 10 having 1 or 2 years outstanding. 15 TVET colleges have not submitted their files, while 11 have partially submitted and 19 have fully submitted. We once again urge all outstanding institutions to submit their full reconciliation files to NSFAS by no later than the end of February 2021. Institutions that are not honoring this process will continue to prejudice students who may not be able to resume their studies because of lack of provision of information. Now, the last thing I would like to talk about is on registration of private higher education institutions and private colleges. The Department of Higher Education and Training has the statutory authority to regulate the private provisioning of college programs and higher education programs. Whilst the legislation and administration are in place, the mushrooming of illegal colleges and illegal practices is still a concern for the department. I'm a fly-by-night. This is an area where the department works with law enforcement agencies in the country. The public is therefore requested to be vigilant and not fall for the bogus operators who are only interested in money and do not offer accredited programs. Potential students may verify the registration of private colleges and private higher education institutions by consulting the respective registers on the website of the department at www.dhet.gov.za, www.dhet.gov.za, or you can contact the call center at 0800 87 22 22. Again, 0800 87 22 22. And you can SMS and say or send a please call me for those who do not have data at 072 204 5056. The number again, 072 204 5056. The department has also become aware that there are several private colleges and institutions that are purporting to offer qualifications without approval from the department and or the relevant quality councils. It's important for us to say this, by the way, including some of these institutions that are offering honorary doctoral degrees. If you are not registered for that, you are not allowed to do so. I'm very pleased, though, to say, without mentioning the name, that one recipient of such a doctoral degree, I won't mention the name, has come to me and said, Minister, we have said we must check. I've checked, this college is not registered, but it's doing some good work. The person believes. How can you help us if they want to register? I must say I welcome that. Because then as a department, we can put them to the place where private higher education institutions are registered. And you may find that some of them have got good programs that are well worth being registered. Unfortunately, I won't mention the name of this person, but I really appreciated that she did that. I wish others also can do so. Furthermore, the department continues to receive complaints on the poor quality of program offerings by some colleges and institutions. It has also become evident that while some colleges are duly registered, some sneak in unaccredited and unregistered programs and qualifications. Now, this is important also to explain. A college is registered to offer 5 particular programs. Legitimately, it's been approved by the department. But it uses that certificate when you enter that it's registered by DHET to then offer 5 other programs which it is not registered to offer, which is it is not qualified or registered to offer. So we also then we are saying, please, if you're checking an institution in our register, check also what it is registered to offer. Not just say it's registered, because all of them, they are registered and it's outlined what is it that they are supposed to offer. The same registers I have referred to also contain information on each and every legitimate program and qualification accredited and registered to that particular institution. Moreover, the public must not be misled by false advertisements, some of which illegally promise internationally recognized qualifications. All programs and qualifications offered by duly registered institutions must be accredited by the relevant quality councils in South Africa and must be reflected as such against the name of each institution that appears in the registers. Lastly, I would like to thank our Deputy Minister, our DG, all the senior managers, and all the staff of the Department of Higher Education and Training, and staff in all of our institutions, by the way. I would like to thank them, as well as all the stakeholders within the post-school education and training sector, who I have been in consultation with and also have been working with us. Some of them, I was consulting with them yesterday, the relevant stakeholders, on our state of the readiness for the 2022 academic year. We also want to urge everyone, here we are as the Department of Higher Education and Training. We are ready to engage with anyone. We are ready to engage with any institution. We are ready to engage with the students, the trade unions, and we want to plead. Before you decide to embark on any action, come and engage with us. Let us not hear that we have declared action without even engaging with the relevant institutions in the first instance, because that's where you should engage. And then, of course, we are also here to engage with representative bodies at national level. We do believe that this government, by the way, has done exceptionally well in supporting the children, in particular of the working class and the poor, to access university and college education. We have done well. We are unapologetic about that. This government. Also, we are very proud of the fact that if you take just our university system, it's the largest public university system in the African continent. And we are very proud of that and what it actually offers. And it is therefore incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we protect these institutions. And we must not just think selfishly about ourselves now who are occupying these institutions. We must also think about future generations. Because this property we are using now for post-school education and training is not just only for us. Yes, it is for us, but most importantly, it's for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the detailed statement. As you have said, the sector is willing to engage. We are now going to engage the members of the media who are present in this precinct and those that have joined us virtually. With me, I've got Ignatius Masilela, who will be leading us on the members of the media who are joining us virtually. And those who are here, please raise your hand, state your name and the organization that you represent, and you can direct the question to my panel, which comprises of the minister, the deputy minister, and the director general of the department. Let me start here at GCIS. Any question? I recognize you, sir. You're number 2. Any other hand? Okay, only 2 questions here. Ignatius, do we have any questions online? We do have. Okay. Let's perhaps start there, and then we'll take these 2 hands. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Mnisi. I just have a couple of questions here. The first question comes from Blade Nzimande from SABC News. What is the government's policy on mandatory vaccination at government institutions of higher learning? And the second question is from Christian Duplessis from Red 24. It's directed to the minister. How has the problem of the projected shortfall of 10 billion rand in the budget for NEPSA has been solved? And the second question from Christian, schools will be returning to full capacity soon. Has the department asked the Common Council for the full reopening of tertiary institutions? If not, why not? And the third question from Christian, has all institutions of higher learning opened for the new academic year yet? And the last question is from Sibahle from Jacaranda FM. And we ask that on COVID-19 vaccination, what happens to institutions like Salt Lake University that have taken a stance on vaccination being mandatory when students return for contact classes? Thank you, Mr. Ministers. Those are the questions for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Ignatius. May I recognize you, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, Braish. Bilan Pahadi here from Newsroom Africa. Minister, there's 2 important things that I think you mentioned that I would like clarity on, the spectrum in particular. You say you're going to be engaging Minister Nchaveni as far as that is concerned, but do you have any work already that has begun to try and ensure that at least there are timelines? Engaging, I know that there's a lot of policies we all have here in the country, beautiful. The implementation phase always seems too far-fetched. So do you perhaps have time frames in this regard where you'll have this spectrum researched, analyzed, and then implemented? They shouldn't be found to be in order. The second one is on the TVET college, the colleges. You see, I know that the country has been trying to ensure that it moves into the sector gradually because it's an important one, in particular to when you have people working with their hands, jobs that are very much particular and meticulous in our country that we need, from weldering to quite a plumbering and so on. But the system to get their diplomas seems to be very much weak, one could add. And there have been 3 or 4 cases that have been reported to Newsroom Africa where people have submitted their documents, but they could take others as far as 2 years to get their diploma. What more could be done to try and ensure that the system can be fast-tracked and people can get their diplomas on time?
Last question, sir.
Okay, it's Mawabakun from ENCA. My question, I think some of them have been asked already when it comes to the issue of mandatory vaccines by the universities. But I just wanted to know if there has been any attempt, Minister, by the student bodies to actually address you on this issue, to talk to you about this issue, because as things stand, some of them are threatening that, they might even be looking at possibly taking action, going on the streets to try and stop this mandatory vaccine. So have there been any engagements in that regard that have been held? Has somebody approached you to try and perhaps say that we want to talk and resolve this issue? I know you've spoken a bit about it, calling for people to engage with you, but has there been any attempt so far? And then just lastly, with regards to the issue of, okay, no, I think I'm covered for now.
Okay, thank you very much. Minister, we have questions which I have clustered them. There are questions regarding the vaccinations. The first one is from Christian, who wants to know if whether we have requested the NCCC to open our institution. Manova is adding to it to say, have we engaged the institutions as well in as far as this is concerned? And also we have a question about the institutions which have already implemented or who are already implementing the vaccination mandates, such as Sonplaki. I think in essence, the questions are based on what we have said, have we engaged with the NCCC and the institutions themselves and those that are concerned by this? And then we've got another a set of questions regarding the opening of our institutions, if whether they all open as we speak now. And Christiane also, the third question she wants to know about the shortfall, if whether how have we resolved the problem. I know the minister has elaborated further that we'll fund, but she wants the details. How did we come to that conclusion? We also have the issue by Mr. Pachane here about the spectrum issues and the engagement with Minister Nchabeni. How have we been how are we faring as far as that is concerned? We have timelines to deal with those issues. And again, the issues of connectivity, if I've captured it well, of TVET colleges. Thank you, Minister.
Yeah, thank you very much. By the way, DM and DG, there's no free time. See, where you feel I'm running short, or where you think you want to add, please feel free to do so. SAPC Umbalenje. I tried to explain through the statement our position on vaccine mandates. The first thing is that the cabinet has requested the deputy president to lead a process of extensive consultation at NEDLAC, with the social partners, and in a range of other places on the attitude on what decision government should take on mandates. In addition, by the way, is the Department of Science and Innovation. One of our institutions, the HSRC, did some research last year. We are going to be presenting that very soon to the NCCC on the attitude of the South African population towards vaccine mandate. It's very important. We did that in November last year. The president has requested that we should now be going to report. We may even supplement that with a survey. So that's the position, that by the time we take the decision as government, we have as wide a range of views and consultation as possible. But that should not detract from the fact that we are urging everyone to vaccinate. That's government's position, that everyone must vaccinate. There we are not dilly-dallying. And we are calling all stakeholders, by the way, in our sector to join us in the campaign for vaccination, whether it's students, whether it's academics, whether it's workers. We are saying, join us in embarking on a massive campaign towards vaccination, because We believe that's one way we'll be able to defeat COVID-19. Now, we have said to the universities, because universities are under pressure to respond in one way or the other to this matter, because we have those who may not be wanting to vaccinate, but there are those who want to vaccinate. And how do you as an institution ensure that your staff and students are safe? That's why universities have gone ahead. We have said to them, we won't stop you from going ahead on this issue of vaccines, but make sure that you consult as widely as possible amongst your stakeholders. But also, in addition, what we were saying in our statement is that in consulting, we must be guided by our own framework of the Constitution. That there is no right that is absolute. Every right has got limitations. If you take a stance that I have a right not to vaccinate, people who have vaccinated also have a right to their own protection as a right. So that is why government has adopted this attitude to say, let's consult as widely as possible. Of course, we cannot consult forever, but I'm not in a position to say when that consultation is going to end. That can only be the deputy president and ultimately the president and cabinet who can be able to make a decision on that. So that's the guideline we have given on vaccination. If the DM or the DG would like to add, they are free to do so. But that's my answer to those questions related to vaccination. The opening of our institutions, all our institutions are opening. Also, you will remember, by the way, that we have managed to do very well in managing our universities and colleges in navigating through COVID-19. Kwesinye isikhathi nje abantu banomona bangancumi. Kufanele ngabe siyancuma nje nawe DJ. Kuthi senze kahle 2020 sayiqeda i-academic year, 2021 sayiqeda i-academic year kube kune COVID. So we also have got experience now in how to manage COVID-19. Thanks to all the stakeholders, and in particular the role played by Higher Health, Professor Aluwali, in assisting us to navigate this. So we already, by the way, were more open as the post-school education and training sector than basic, not because we are competing. We understand the pressures facing basic are very different. We know why basic education has been doing what it has been doing, guided by cabinet and so on. So we are going to be opening, but at the same time as we open, Higher Health is playing a very leading role in guiding us on how to manage the situation as it is now. So our plan is that our institutions will be open. In fact, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, DG, all of them are open now. Universities and colleges, all of them are vulile, they are open, whilst we manage the situation. The issue is Pahadi, the issue of timelines. It's a very important one. But remember, by the way, that government has not been able to release spectrum fully. Because also there are some role players who have taken government to court consistently to say, no, you can't release it under these conditions or that condition. We've been in courts. Frankly, much as people have a right to go to court, but unfortunately, this thing is delaying us. It's delaying us as a country. That's a fact. It's delaying us in higher education in terms of moving faster towards digitization of education where we actually can, and also to roll out connectivity throughout the whole country. I know that Minister Nchabeni is doing work that is fairly advanced now to be able to make announcements, but then it's going to depend on these court cases. Are there people who are going to try and stop government and so on? So that's why then we are using this opportunity now to engage, so that when then the full announcement is being done, it must either already contain issues around spectrum for education, or it incorporates a process towards that at the very least, by the time the announcement is made. We would like this to be made as soon as is possible when spectrum release is being undertaken. We can't afford to wait or to delay as a sector, because we need data big time. Now, that will be done then in line with government policies and announcements and timelines there. The budgeted shortfall is no longer there on NSFAS. So, as I've said, remember I repeated that now we'll actually be able to admit students, to pay for students who have been admitted, who meet the requirements, both continuing and first-time entrants. So the working class and the poor of this country can sleep in peace, knowing that their children who have done okay will be able to get government funding. I hope that answers that question. TVET college certificates. Look, we've gone a long way now. Maybe DG, you may want to come in with the assistance of your DDGs where necessary as to the exact numbers. I don't have the figures at the moment on what is the shortfall, but we've really cut down the backlog big time. It's very few certificates now that are still remaining. On this front, it's been difficult, but we've actually done a lot of work. Oh yeah, ENCA, have students raised the issues now that's of vaccine mandate? Yes, they have. Students are very good. They don't waste time on issues that are close to their heart. We are in discussions with them, and we are going to be continue to discuss with them. In fact, DM, now it's not right. It's okay to instruct the DG in this meeting, but you can request the DM, you know, that very soon we need your meetings of all the stakeholders urgently to discuss this matter, which that stakeholder forum, which is chaired by the DM, it's a ministerial forum. It involves trade unions, it involves all the key role players, student leaders, everyone in the post-school education and training sector. Yes, we are engaging with the students. They've raised the matter. Thank you very much. DM, you want to say something?
Yeah, to accept the request.
Thank you, Minister. I think the just a minor addition on the question of mandatory vaccination. I think our focus is not only on what the policies are or not, but our focus will also be in ensuring that we persuade and engage those students who are refusing to vaccinate. Working with Higher Health, we've been doing that quite well over, in the last year, and we'll be continuing with that work because our view is not only about whether they, who goes into campus and who doesn't, but I think more importantly to get to understand what their concerns are, no matter how ridiculous we think some of those concerns are, but we think it's important that we engage. And in some of the institutions where we went in with with Higher Health and also with the Department of Health, we've seen a very positive response. And I think the attitude of the student leadership has also not been we don't want to vaccinate or this or that. Their attitude has been, as the student leadership, we endorse government policy in encouraging everyone to vaccinate, But we want you to take into consideration the fact that there are those students who have got their concerns in terms of vaccination. So we're going to be increasing that drive to get students to to vaccinate under that very I think a catchy phrase, Minister, that vaccination is safe, and let's vaccinate. And vaccination saves lives. So that's the one addition that that I wanted to make. That we're going to continue to do that, and then that we will engage with them. We will continue to engage with them. There have been some meetings with the student leadership, and I think, as the minister has said, that the ministerial task team on COVID-19, our response for COVID-19, which has been doing quite a lot of work, and with the contribution of the student leadership, of the trade unions, and most of the, or all of the stakeholders in the sector, and their their contribution has ensured that we not cruise through, but navigate through the challenges, Minister, as you said, that we were confronted with through COVID-19. And we think at this point, we, would find it even much more easier to deal with some of the issues that we may be confronted with as it relates to reopening. There was one question around, I think, from Newsroom Africa about those who work with their hands. I have an issue with that, Minister, because how else do other people work? To suggest that those who go to TVET colleges work with their hands. How else do other people work other than with their hand? Because it seems to suggest, which I think is some part of the problem that has stigmatized TVET college education. That if you brainy, you go to university. If you not, you go to a TVET college. You still need your brain to go and study in a TVET college. You still need your hands to go and study at a university. And the reason why I think this is important is because we have a situation wherein the university sector has, over the years, grew proportionally higher compared to the TVET sector. And it is precisely because we tend to compare the two sectors, with one being regarded as prestigious and the other being a second option. And I think it's important that we note the many changes that have occurred over the last 10 to 15 years in the TVET sector. The improvement in terms of the quality of education, in terms of infrastructure, the output rate that the minister was talking about as part of the statement, and that both universities in their own way and TVET colleges also in their own way have an important role to play in our society, in our economy, in a very distinct way. And I think that, we are at a position wherein we can proudly say that because of the progress and the investment that this government has made in the TVET sector, it is not probably yet where we want it to be, but we think that the progress that has been made is so significant that we think that comparison, is unfair. I went, Minister, to during the elections campaign. One of the parents was telling me that they want to remove their child from university because she thinks the child is stupid. They must be taken to a TVET college and all of that. Or you also hear of parents who say, I'm not going to be taking my child to a TVET college because it's for people who are stupid. And I think that we have to challenge that stereotype because it's a stereotype that belongs to the past. TVET colleges have significantly transformed from what they were and the purpose that they were designed for. They are now, stands comparatively speaking, and internationally, some amongst the best. But I think it's a discussion which we can have some other time. Thank you.
Sosa is a graduate of a TVET college, by the way. I went to TVET. Just to prove the point. Here is evidence.
Thank you, Minister TM. Are there any further questions? Okay, this is the last round of questions we are taking. Let me start with you, Ignatius, online.
Thanks, Mr. Lucy. I just have further questions from Christian from the Network 24. What was the legal advice that the minister earlier obtained regarding the status of Africans and the Noma, Khoi and San languages in the Department of Higher Education language policy framework that kicked in on the 1st of January this year? And the second question from Christian is that it is alleged that the SRC is at UNISA residence of the Vice Chancellor to address issues affecting students. It is also alleged that police have also been called on. They have been called on the students' leadership. Is the minister aware of this? And will he make a statement? And the question relating to that is from Vicious Beggar from Network 24. I understand at least 8 UNISA SRC members have also been arrested for invading the Vice Chancellor official home in Victoria. Can the minister please confirm this and give a statement? And I have the last question from Sibahle from Jakarta FM. Is the minister aware of the protest at UCT over rape allegations leveled against the SRC president and the secretary? Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you very much, Ignatius.
Thank you. Dr. Pakari again from News Nzimande. I hear you're passionate, DM, about your answer, but I think you got the wrong tier of the question that I wanted to ask. My question is not about the hands or anything, but we do know that there's issues around artisanship that is at TVET colleges. My question is the support that government is giving to ensure that the people who are doing artisan and apprenticeship at these colleges will get some sort of not only employment but work and support, entrepreneurial support, to ensure that they are in a position to fend for themselves when they end their 1 year 6 months courses, and then further 1 year 6 months as far as their internship are concerned. There's a lot of them who are looking for those opportunities but are unable to get, so that they can be able to get their diplomas.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions? Okay, no questions. Can we start probably with the DM? The question on artisan support, and then we'll come to Christian and Richard from the network on UNISA issues. Thank you.
Thank you. I think what there was the part of the question about the diplomas, and I think the minister covered that a bit. But there's a gentleman behind you. I think we'll just ask for him in terms of the numbers of the outstanding diplomas that have been issued. And probably also the process, because so one completes their end courses, and then yes, go on to do their practical training or internships, and upon completion of that, that's when they can be awarded their diploma. There have been challenges with regards to that, but we believe that we've gone a long way in almost getting the number of outstanding diplomas up to 0. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we have been running a program called the Decade of the Artisan. And the intention is to meet the NDP's goals, target of producing more than 20,000 artisans per annum, well, ultimately 30,000 artisans per annum by 2030. That program has been, on the rise, and there are various other programs that are complementing, not only with the training of artisans, but also with the training of apprenticeship, including our program on the centers of specialization, which specifically targets programs at colleges and seek to resource those and uplift those. And I'm quite happy that you're asking those questions, which means that we can actually have a discussion about that and maybe even show you around where some of our centers of specialization are, whose intention is to support apprenticeship training, to support our program on artisan development, and which is exactly what I was saying, that we've done quite a lot over the last 10 to 15 years to improve the quality of education at a TVET level. Okay, thank you.
Manzini, you want to say something before I come in?
I can respond. Thank you very much.
Is it possible for you to go over?
Oh, that's it. Afternoon, Minister DM and DG and all the colleagues present. I think on DM, you're quite right on the question of the issue of training apprentices. And I think you are also right in terms of the mind shift. The training of artisans can't be solely be the responsibility of government through the Department of Higher Education and Training. Training of artisans requires a very, very big involvement of industry. And I hope that the question that we are posing, you will also be posing to industry as to what is it that they are doing in ensuring that they open those workplaces, because what we do as a department, we put more training in terms of theory, but the issue of practical training, you can only acquire that experience in the industry. Now, the gaps that we are talking about, which I will address in terms of the certificates, we are sitting at 95.5% in terms of issuing certificates. The 0.5% relates to what we call historical records. And the historical records emanate from what we used to call the old education system, Minister, prior to 1994. And those are the records that we are trying to get, which are very, very difficult to get, so that we can clear up to 100%. So that is the only percentage in terms of the backlog. But in terms of the artisan training, as you say, we need, in relation to the dual apprenticeship training, we need the involvement of industry. The other thing that we want to emphasize, not just to students, but also the employers. When we take students to the industry, they carry what we call logbooks. Those logbooks have got specific tasks which the students have to complete. In many cases, when they go to industry, they will be asked, I am trained to be an artisan in a mechanical engineering, and I find myself in the kitchen having to make tea for someone else and not to perform the task of being a mechanical engineer. And then when the time reaches for them to submit to the department for us to process the diploma, we find that the tasks that they were performing do not relate to the courses that they enrolled for. And I think those are the issues which we are then also improving in terms of giving feedback to the students that we have submitted, but the tasks that you perform do not relate to the course that you were studying for. Therefore, we will not be able to issue the certificate. But we do also encourage those that have got outstanding certificates, they can send their inquiries to our examination and assessment unit, I have asked Mr. Mnisi also to communicate that communication line which they can follow in terms of putting the inquiries for us to be able to process. So instead of going maybe to any other entities or maybe sending to the deputy minister, to the minister, and maybe to the presidential hotline, they can just send those inquiries to that line so that we can be able to attend to them immediately without any delays. Thank you very much, Minister.
Yeah, we should be doing this all the time, by the way, not only when it's me coming here. For everyone. Yeah. By the way, I like the size of this thing, this podium. It's a correct size, unlike the other discriminatory sizes. DJ. Look, I don't want to be long. I think, DG, we are answering this question that we've been asked by the DA on the legal advice we got about the status of Afrikaans. But to be quite honest, it's very unfortunate because this issue of Afrikaans that is being raised, it's very opportunistic and very unfortunate. In fact, what the DA is doing, must be careful, is not very different from what the apartheid regime tried to do in 1976 by wanting to force everyone in the country to be taught through the medium of Afrikaans, including in the black schools, in places where Afrikaans is not either a home language or a language that was more common. That's what led to the 1976 uprisings. Because the apartheid regime was recklessly playing about language. That's what the DA, unfortunately, is doing now. Firstly, I just want to say this. There is no one in my department or in any of our institutions who is against Afrikaans whatsoever. Afrikaans is one of our official languages. It will remain like that. And by the way, Afrikaans is not even spoken by the likes of the people in the DA who are raising it as the majority speakers. Afrikaans is largely spoken by the colored working class communities in the Western Cape, larger than white speakers of Afrikaans, by the way. There's no one who is against Afrikaans, but they are playing games. What is the game that they are playing? They are fighting for votes with the Vryheids Front Plus. Because Freedom Front Plus has been taking votes from the DA. So now the DA is trying to say, in order to win back that vote, let's try and project ourselves as the champions of Afrikaans. And then what's the best way to do that? Find that Nzimande and attack him what he's doing about the issue of language policy. All what we are doing with our education institutions is language policy. What is the most appropriate language policy for higher education? Universities have been dealing with this matter, the issue of the status of different languages, and so on. So this is just opportunistic. Afrikaans is going to remain a language. Don't use language for narrow political ends, like some in the DA are opportunistically doing, because you may plunge this country into tensions that we do not need. And where some of us, by the way, we were forced to do 3 languages at school, which in terms of education policy, that was criminal for that to be imposed. If you choose to do 3 languages because you like them, you are a languages person, that's fine. But we were imposed 3 languages that we did, being imposed on us. So they must not do things that actually begin to dig things that we've tried to say, Let's put those in the past and just focus that we never do those things in future. There's no threat to Afrikaans. Afrikaans is one of our official languages. That's it. They're also arguing, should it be called an indigenous language or not? And the reason why they are raising that, by the way, is to try in the DA to prevent the development of African languages like iSpedi, iSotho, isiNdebele, iSetswana, isiZulu, all your 9 indigenous languages. They don't want us to focus resources on that. They say, if we focus resources on that, we're going to discriminate against Africans. That's not true. So it's a racist stance, to be quite honest. I want to say it quite frankly like that. That why are we focusing in the 9 languages? Because they are a threat to actually Afrikaans as a language. Now, I just thought that I needed to address that and know this for what it is. Not to actually abuse the language. I have heard about the things that there is trouble at UNISA in terms of going to the visa. I heard that as I was coming here, but I don't have the details, unfortunately. I only hope that UNISA is able to deal with that problem. I only hope there's no agenda to destabilize that institution. And DG, you will help us by getting us more information so that we are aware. We don't run UNISA as the department, but we are interested to know if there is any problems in any of our institutions. I haven't heard about the UCT one. We can also get information so that we also know we don't run UCT as to what is going on and the allegations that are being made. Lastly, maybe just to add to the points that the DM has more or less adequately covered the issue of artisans and all that. Maybe just in addition, we have a national development plan target of producing 30,000 artisans per annum by 2030. We are already at 21,000. And at the rate at which we are going, we are likely to exceed that target, which actually just demonstrates our seriousness in dealing with the issue of artisans, as well as workplace. The DM has spoken about the centers of excellence, because we want centers of specialization, because we want to bring training of artisans closer to the workplace, because the DM is right. That's where it happens. If we don't have workplace experience, you can't actually produce artisans. Lastly, just on the certificate, also to add, we are at 95.5% clearance of the backlog of outstanding certificates from TVET colleges, as DDG was saying. We're at 95.5%. And also the trouble largely we are having with the 4.5% is with the certificates that go back to pre-1994, where we are trying institutions that have matched now, they had not matched before, on what is happening. But we are leaving no stone unturned, because my own belief is that if you are an education department and you don't ensure that certificates are giving out, you are not worth the name that you're an education department. If then you can't certificate at the end of the program. That is why we've taken this effort to actually ensure that the certificates are released and we wipe out the backlog. Thank you very much. Bye, donkey.
Thank you very much, Minister, the DM, the DG. I've been requested to share with you the link where those that still wants their examination certificates from the TVET branch can contact. Please do send your enquiries to www.service.gov.za. www.service.gov.za. You will be assisted if you send all the enquiries that we receive from the department regarding examination certificates. Please do engage us on that platform, and then you shall then be assisted. Having said that, thank you very much to the members of the media, the minister, the DM, the DG, and all the DDGs, CEOs that are present here for your time. This brings us to the end of our media briefing. Thank you very much.
Thanks to the program director as well. Long live.
Mandla. Education and training sector readiness for the academic year 2022. To read the statement for us is the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande, who is accompanied by the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Mr. Buti Manamela, and the Director General of the Department of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nkosinathi Sishi. Welcome, DG. This is your first media briefing that you are attending with us since your appointment. Thank you very much for your presence and appointment. Thank you. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to welcome the leadership of the NSFAS led by the chairperson, Ubabu Kosa, and the CEO is here. The leadership of Higher Health led by Dr. Alwalia, and the DDGs of various programs of the department. You are also welcomed, colleagues from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Minister, I will take this opportunity to request you to come and address us. I must indicate that today, ladies and gentlemen, we are addressed by the youthful Minister of Education, Science and Innovation. You'll see from his attire, and you can deduce the direction that this statement will go, that it is in favor of who. Thank you very much. Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ishmael, who is the program director for this press briefing, which is a very important press briefing for us at the beginning of each academic year. Let me start by greeting our Deputy Minister, Mr. Buti Manamela, our relatively brand new Director General of the Department of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nkosinathi Sishi, all the Deputy Director Generals present here, Professor Ramnik Alwalia of Higher Health, the Chairperson of the Board of NSFAS, Mr. Ernest Kosa. He complains the students call him Ernest FAS. And the CEO of NSFAS, Mr. Andile Nongoko, the chairpersons and CEO of all our entities, chancellors, vice chancellors, TVET and community education and training principals, trade unions in our sector, student formations, members of the media and fellow South Africans. We welcome you all to our first media briefing of the year 2022. I call this briefing to share with the public our readiness for the opening of the 2022 post-school education and training academic year. I'm wearing my blazer because also we urge all our partners to be with us, especially also our SRC leaders who normally wear like this very nicely in all our universities and colleges. We need your cooperation as we start the academic year. First and foremost, let me congratulate the matric class of 2021, National Senior Certificate, who got an overall pass rate standing at 76.4%, an improvement of 0.2% from the pass rate achieved by the class of 2020. Correctly, I should be saying it's an improvement of 0.2 percentage points, not 0.2%, from the pass rate achieved by the class of 2020. This represents a record of 537,687 candidates who passed the 2021 National Senior Certificate examinations. All of these, this represents a record of, as I've said the number, all of these are potential candidates to be absorbed into our post-school education and training sector. I also wish to congratulate all the learners who passed their November 2021 National Certificate Vocational Levels 2 to 4 exams, which are administered by my Department of Higher Education and Training. I also wish to take this opportunity to urge all those who have not made it, not to despair, but to explore the range of opportunities for training, learnerships, and internships in the skills development section of our post-school education and training sector, over and above, of course, the second chance matric opportunities that are there. Our skills development system will be offering, for instance, about 100,000 opportunities through our SETAs, Sector Education and Training Authorities, including but not limited to learnerships, which provide both theory and practical workplace training, where learners are paid a learnership allowance regulated in terms of the National Minimum Wage Act, including apprenticeship for artisanal trades. Additional opportunities in this case will also be announced in the next few weeks as we finalize our work in this regard in terms of opportunities for skills development. Ladies and gentlemen, the last 2 years have been extremely tough for the post-school education and training sector. However, I'm proud that our system has remained resilient despite the numerous challenges of funding constraints, COVID-19 restrictions, and the new forms of teaching and learning we've had to adopt. For our university sector, the number of students who deregistered remains low, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. For undergraduate students, the percentage of dropouts was 2%, and for postgraduate, it's at 3%. As a sector, we've ensured that we support our students who needed electronic devices such as laptops. The average, by the way, across the system, the university system, is that 73% of students who require laptops have been supported to obtain one, with NSFAS students at an average of 87%. I want to repeat this. The average across the system is 73% of students who require laptops have been supported to obtain one, with NSFAS students at an average of 87%. I'm repeating this because there was a lot of disinformation about this matter, and that in fact we have done fairly well as a department in terms of provision of gadgets to support learning and teaching in our institutions. It is our hope that students will prioritize the use of their allowances to prioritize essential equipment to support their learning at university. Data provision required for online access for teaching and learning and assessments also remained high across the system. The average across the system for all university graduate students is 86%. It is for this reason that we'll be engaging the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, Minister Chabeni, on dedicated spectrum for post-school education and training, so that we are able to effectively access, sustain, and use digital technologies in support of education and training. It's a very important matter, this, that now that as a country and the world is moving and going digital, it's important that we believe spectrum must be dedicated, must be reserved in a dedicated way for post-school education and training. And this is what we are going to be engaging the minister about. For the most part, students who are on campus and in residences are able to access university Wi-Fi services. Our universities, TVET colleges, and community education and training colleges and skill centers have also generally reported high levels of student participation in teaching and learning, assessment and testing in 2021, as greater numbers of students were able to access campuses and skill centers. This gives us hope that in 2020, we should expect decreased numbers of students not consistently engaged in learning and teaching and training, as our post-school education and training institutions have now devised strategies to deal with the difficulties presented by COVID-19 and the lockdowns. I would like to thank the leadership of our PSET system, comprising of our universities, TVETs, community education and training colleges and skill centers, the academic and support staff, labor unions, and the students for their resilience and commitment to ensure that we successfully completed the 2021 academic year. Also like to thank our Deputy Minister for having led the consultation processes involving all our stakeholders to manage these past 2 years that have been very difficult. We've worked well together in facing the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. And indeed, I wish you all the strength for the 2022 academic year. Ladies and gentlemen, on vaccination, COVID-19 remains a challenge as we start the 2022 academic year. The post-school education and training system has been immensely creative and adaptive in the management of our response to the pandemic through our Save Lives, Save the Academic Year, as well as innovations, as well as interventions by and through the Department of Science and Innovation. A special cabinet meeting held yesterday, 31st January, approved changes to the adjusted alert level 1 COVID-19 regulations. This follows meetings of the National Coronavirus Command Council, the President's Coordinating Council, which received updates on the management of COVID-19 in South Africa. The information gathered through the system used by the Department of Health has reported that South Africa has exited the fourth wave nationally. Now, this development means that 2022 is promising to be an academic year less disrupted by lockdown periods and restricted access to classes. Of course, if no new waves of variants surge again. And by the way, we mustn't also drop the ball. We must continue to maintain the health protocols, including physical distancing, including cleaning our hands, using sanitizers, and putting our masks in both mouth and nose, amongst others. To the extent that COVID-19 restrictions are eased, more and more contact learning and teaching is possible. And as levels of vaccination increase, more students will have access to on-campus services. In line with the approach of the National Coronavirus Command Council, the NCCC as we call it, and Cabinet, I would like to encourage everyone in our higher education and training community to get vaccinated. Vaccination is safe and it saves lives. So we call upon everyone, all our stakeholders, to join us in the campaign to get everyone vaccinated. As we move towards full contact learning and teaching and on-campus activities and a full return to residencies, it is necessary to ensure that staff and students have access to safe campus environments, which is greatly assisted by a high level of the population being vaccinated. Ayikho yonke lento eshiwoyo ngomgomo lo esiwenzayo ukuthi uneyinkinga wenza zonke lezi zinto. Sifuna ukusho lokuthini ukuthi ososayensi bayasitshela ukuthi zonke lezi zinto kuthiwa abantu abangagomi ngoba abanye angazi bazokwenzekelwa yini, inganekwane nje esiyixoxelwayo. Isayensi ngingakusho lokhu ngoba angimile lana njengongqongqoshe nje wezemfundo ephakeme nokuqeqeshwa, ngimla futhi njengongqongqoshe wezesayensi nobuchwepheshe, ukuthi imigomo le ikhethiwe, iyaziwa, yahlolwa. Yingakho sithi kuwo wonke umuntu masihambeni siyogoma ukuze siphephise impilo zethu. Currently, our agency, Higher Health, our implementing agency that is guiding institutions on the management of the pandemic, is consulting scientific experts in drawing up guidelines that institutions can follow in determining various matters around vaccination. Whilst we are awaiting the finalization of these guidelines in relation to vaccine mandates and in the management of the academic year, which I intend to prioritize urgently, let's all work together to defeat COVID-19, and I urge all institutions to ensure that the policies and procedures they put in place have been widely consulted upon. However, we must point out that the Deputy President is leading a process of consultations on the issue of vaccine mandates. That's our Deputy President, Mr. Didi Mabuza, who is leading this effort. However, it is important that in navigating this situation of vaccine mandates, we must know that in terms of our own constitution, there is no right that is absolute. Those who assert their right not to vaccinate must also know that those who choose to vaccinate also have their rights to be protected against possible infection. Alikho nje ilungelo elihambela lodwa. Nasemgaqweni kunespeed esibekiwe 100. Ngeke kusho ukuthi hayi mina ngizoshayela ngo100. Kwenzela ukuthi ungabi ingozi kuwena futhi ungabi ingozi nakwabanye abantu. So it's very important that we are guided also by our constitution in the choice we make in exercising our rights. So this should be the framework within which our institutions are able to engage. In addition, the guidelines that I will release will take into account the latest national regulations and how they will impact on our post-school education and training institutions. Let me talk about university enrollment for 2023. The overall total enrollments within the public university sector have been projected to be 1,110,000.
Are you a minister of God affected by the current lockdown regulations on church gatherings? Then BBT 24 offers you a great opportunity to reach out to your congregants. As we celebrate our 5th year anniversary, we've got special rates tailor-made just for you. Then why don't you take advantage of our evening prime time slots at a discounted rates for a limited time, of course. I trust and I pray that your association with BBT 24 will be of great pleasure as we continue to preach the true gospel of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in these last days. I am looking forward to hearing from you soon. Please contact us on the details below. Shalom.
Education is the key to success, and that key needs to be obtained. But there are certain aspects that need to be fulfilled in order for the students to excel in their academics. Food, clothes, and books are one of the most important essentials that are going to lead to a fruitful and successful educational life. BBT 24 is pleading with the public to make donations and help this dream become a reality. Hold hands and walk with us as we are leading the way. The future is in our hands. Contact us on our email info@bbt24.co.za and do talk to us on our social media platform. It's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. BBT 24, leading the way.